Broadcasting from the heart of the nation, the next generation in conservative talk radio. This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Why, yes, it is. What is up, my friends? Welcome into it. It's your post-Monday celebration. Greatest day of the entire week. You see the light almost at the end of the tunnel, but we are carpe diemisms all over the place. It's what we do here on the show, staying positive, staying excited, and looking forward to the shenanigans and the malarkey that we see in the world each and every day. It's day number 21, by the way, if you have not noticed, of the government shutdown. Yeah, it's still going on. Democrats have yet to give in and cave in, realizing there's a political opportunity here, and I have changed my prediction from what we gave yesterday. I said yesterday that we could see the end of the government shutdown by this week after the No King's Day protests and them realizing they're not getting anywhere, they're not able to fight the authoritarian or the king while they're out of session. But then we realized it's really not what it's about at all, right? They already know that Donald Trump's not a king. They already know that Donald Trump's not a tyrant or a monarch, even though that's what they say to the media and try and create that narrative, again, fueling the political violence and the hatred and the division in this nation, unlike anything else. So what is it all about? We'll get to that in just a moment. First and foremost, welcome in. It's a great show. Great to have you along for the ride today for the Post-Monday celebration, broadcasting in the heart of the nation in Wichita, Kansas, doing our thing.
Do it live!
Like we do every single day on the program. Bottom of the hour, we have Jim Higdon on the show. We're going to have an interesting conversation on hemp legislation. A show of hands, does everybody know what hemp really is? No? Okay, well, hemp is like marijuana, but without the THC involved in it. There's a lot of states now that are looking at legalizing hemp in some fashion. It is used for many different things, and the state of Ohio, apparently, we're going to look at you for just a moment, that Governor Mark DeWine has now signed an executive order banning hemp in the state.
Say what?
Kind of weird. So why is that? We'll chat with Jim Higdon on the program. He's the co-founder of Cornbread Hemp, battling that in the state of Ohio, and what the latest is with that legislation and the legislature in the state of Ohio. What could they be working on in the next few weeks? So we'll have some of that and more on the program. But day number 21.
What's trending today?
Hakeem Jeffries now speaking again. I don't know why he's the one talking and why it's not Chuck Schumer. The House already passed this continuing resolution. There's no reason for the House to be involved at all. I get Mike Johnson's out there speaking too. There's no need. It's the Senate. Senate, do your damn job. Democrats, get on board and vote for the continuing resolution and give up your idea of socialized health care for the nation, because it's not going to work.
We're going to win in Virginia, and we're going to win in New Jersey, because the American people are fed up.
Hold on. Okay, hold on here. Now we're starting to get somewhere. I told you right at the beginning that I have changed my prediction on why we're seeing the government shutdown and when we're going to see the end of the government shutdown. Last week, the CNN story ran from Democrats that said that as long as the polling shows that they are in the favorability ranking, then they're going to continue on with the shutdown. Meaning it's not about policy. It's not about ideas. It's really not about the universal health care. It really comes down to the fact that we're finding a way to slow down the economy and stick it to Donald Trump, even though that's not working, but feeling like, again, like the whole Cold War, teaching kids to hide under their desk during the nuclear bomb, it's not doing anything, but it makes you feel like you have some sense of control in your life. And that's what Democrats are all about right now. Now, we thought that after the No Kings protest over the weekend, we would see an end to this government shutdown. We have to fight the tyrant. We can't do that while we're not in session. But now we have a new theory, and it falls more in line with Senator John Kennedy, where he said we really may not see the government opening it until after Thanksgiving. Because right now, Democrats apparently are holding out, thinking the favorability is on their end, and testing the popular opinion of this by what the results are going to look like for the off-season elections in November of this year.
We're going to win in Virginia, and we're going to win in New Jersey, because the American people are fed up that Republicans would rather spend time on vacation on the golf course, give $40 billion to a foreign entity, and can't find resources to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, days away from November 1st and the open enrollment.
Yeah, okay. So open enrollment coming up soon. They're trying to say, universal health care, we need more government subsidy, so on and so forth. This could have been resolved if you actually kept things in session and actually worked on it behind the scenes the way that you're supposed to do as an actual job. But they're not doing that. And now they're saying that they're going to hold out until the election to see what the popular opinion shows. And we're going to win in Virginia, meaning the Attorney General's race, where the guy said that he wants to put 2 bullets in the heads of Republicans and have the parents cry over their dead kids' bodies or whatever. He said the horrible, disgusting rhetoric that he said that's still in the race, by the way. And he's just like, yep, not backing out. Terribly sorry, but I'm going to represent you the best way I possibly know how to do so. Like, I don't... doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And a few other races around the nation. What is that going to look like moving forward? So we have that. Then we have this class warfare. Did you catch it? The class warfare. Republicans are out golfing. They're on vacation, having a grand old time. And they can't just do the simple thing like give more Obamacare subsidies to universal health care, so that way we have more government health care that has been serving people horribly and is a complete failure, and we want more of that, and these rich people are out golfing while you're dying out there because you don't have any more government-run health care.
We're all gonna die because of you!
That's now the position they've changed. Now, this has been changed for a while. This has been evolving as the 21-day shutdown that we've seen, from the healthcare issue, then to you're trying to cover up the Epstein files and don't want that to be voted on, to now it's all about election season, to we want the popular approval rating to be towards us. So it's really evolved. Democrats really haven't had a set idea on why they're doing what they're doing, but there we are. And that's what it is. And the rhetoric continues on, because now we have not only Hakeem Jeffries out there, we have Chuck Schumer that's really not anywhere, which is kind of ironic when he's the one holding things up in the Senate side of the aisle. But then we have the pundits, the media themselves, that are just going complete radical, dialing that dial all the way up to 11, cranking it all the way up, and even increasing the rhetoric about how dangerous Donald Trump and Republicans are.
And right now, in this moment, there's an existential threat. Our democracy is hanging by a thread. Some people would say we're already an authoritarian regime.
Already there.
And I need to see teeth. I need to see fire. And not just me. Many people are worried and concerned.
We are already... Did you know that? I wasn't aware of that. Hold on, let me check outside. I don't see the sky red yet. We are living right now in an authoritarian regime. We are already right now in an existential threat for this nation. An elected official last week already said that we're in the middle of that transition to the authoritarianism, and right now that was, can you believe it, back in the media, back in the limelight, promoting her book and finding some type of political opportunity here. Karine Jean-Pierre, the former press secretary for the Biden administration, now saying that we are in the authoritarian regime and in the existential threat right now. And you wonder why there's political violence. And you wonder why there's people that are causing harm out there, trying to attack Donald Trump, trying to harm Republicans, wanting to assassinate and calling for the assassination of Republicans and conservatives, because you have rhetoric like this, that we are the existential threat, and we are already. It's not in the transition. It's not coming soon. We are in an authoritarian regime, and we have an existential threat for us right here and right now. I'm starting to recognize, and if you haven't noticed this throughout history, you're seeing it play out right before your eyes. Communism, which, by the way, has taken hold of the Democrat Party. Let's just admit it. They want the universal health care. That is communism. They want control over censored speech. That is communism. They want taxation to pay for everything and for you not to have any wealth. That is communism. Let's just admit it. The Democrat Party is moving further and further at a very, very rapid rate towards communism. And communism, while they say it's about the people, it's about the general good, it's about the common good, it's about the community as a whole, it comes to fruition really quickly. And it really quickly becomes exposed that it's not really about the community, it's about personal interest. And it's about finding ways to position yourself to be in the best possible situation so you can look down upon somebody else. Karine Jean-Pierre is the perfect example of that. If she were not still trying to write a book and kiss up to Joe Biden, which I don't know why she's doing that. Well, I kind of do. The only reason is because she finds a political opportunity for it. She found her niche. Everybody has deserted Joe Biden. Democrats in all of them were like, yeah, Joe Biden's kind of nuts. We don't want him. He's kind of crazy. We don't like him anymore. He's can't remember his name half the time. She found an opportunity, and she found her niche. We're going to write the book. She announced that she's leaving the Democrat Party. She's now becoming an independent, and that she's going to stick with Joe Biden through thick and thin because she found the political opportunity to do so, and now she has her niche above everybody else. It's communism. It's exactly what it is. She advocates for the same policies, but she's looking out for herself, even though she's making a complete fool of herself by defending a guy that even the Democrat Party won't defend, and she's disgusted by that, so she leaves to become an independent, trying to carve her way into the political scene. It's very interesting. But communism itself is what this is all about. It's about the personal vendetta. It's about the personal opportunity as opposed to the common good. And that leads us to a story today.
What's trending today?
And I didn't get to this yesterday, and I feel really bad because we like to talk about this quite a bit. But there was a couple headlines that had popped up yesterday afternoon regarding student loan forgiveness under the Trump administration.
Say what?
Now, Andy, what does this have to do with communism? Well, it has a lot to do with communism, and we'll explain why. So, apparently, the headlines were all about Donald Trump agrees to speed up student loan forgiveness under a new court deal. This is according to Fox Business, Wall Street Journal, and MSNBC, I believe, also had headlines that really said that Donald Trump is going to move forward with student loan forgiveness. I want to be very clear, and this goes a bit deeper than just Donald Trump, but Donald Trump did not agree. Well, he did agree, but he did not advocate for the promotion of the student loan forgiveness. It was a court deal where he ended up making an agreement with the courts on the cancellation that was already in motion under the Biden administration and honestly already in motion under the Obama administration back in the day for income-driven repayment programs and protecting borrowers from unexpected tax bills based on the student loans that you actually pay on or that you may not pay on. And it was in the courts for a long time. The Trump administration has now agreed to the compromise that is in the courts right now with the American Federation of Teachers and the administration, with the ATF v. U.S. Department of Education resolving months of legal tension over the government's obligation. I love this wording here. The obligation to cancel student loan debt from borrowers who have made decades of payments under federal law. Now, I just want to stop here for a moment. If you have student loans, or even if you don't have student loans, if you have any other loan out there at all, a mortgage payment, a car payment, a personal consolidation loan, equity line of credit, whatever it may be, and you make payment after payment after payment, do you just expect after like 10 years to be like, I think I deserve to have the rest of this written off. I think I should have the rest of this done. Doesn't work that way. But apparently with student loans, it does. A statement from the ATF president, which you can imagine how well that worked out, with Randy Weingarten, who also said, by the way, that we are still Nazis and fascists for trying to get rid of sexually explicit books in K through 12 classrooms for students, saying, quote, "This year we took on the Trump administration when it refused to follow the law and denied borrowers the relief they were owed. For nearly a decade, the ATF has fought for the rights of student loan borrowers to be freed from the shackles of unjust debt. And today, a huge part of that affordability fight was vindicated." As they go on to say, our agreement means that those borrowers stuck in limbo can either get immediate relief or finally see a light at the end of the tunnel. And crucially, they won't ever get taxed on that relief. Now, that is good news. I mean, we shouldn't get taxed on that stuff anyways. But the ATF will hold the federal government, she continues. The ATF will hold the federal government to its word, and we won't stop fighting until college is affordable, and taking out a student loan doesn't trap millions of Americans in a ruinous and exploitive debt cycle. So much stupid in that, my brain hurts, which we'll break it all down when we come back around the corner for your post-Monday celebration on The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier. When reason meets radio. This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Yeah, welcome back to the program. 24 minutes past the hour. Great to have you. I am really, got to be honest, a little bit devastated, a little bit upset with the fact that the head of the ATF, the American Federation of Teachers, or I'm sorry, the AFT, not the ATF. That would be the AFT, the American Federation of Teachers, the one that's supposed to be looking out for the teachers, looking out for the students, focused on education, would be this educationally incompetent. For an individual that says, for nearly a decade, we fought for the rights of student loan borrowers to be freed from the shackles of unjust debt. That's kind of weird to me, because I thought that when you signed on the dotted line to be, yes, I'm going to invest in myself by taking out a loan in order for me to pay for the university that I'm going to go to get an education, that I have those plans to pay those back when I'm done, because it's an investment in myself and I'll be better educated and have better opportunity to get a job afterwards. And therefore, when I come out of it, then I'll be able to pay my debt and it won't be a problem. So if freed from the shackles of unjust debt, like how communistically stupid do you have to be in society to believe something like this? I mean,
Say what?
I know, and I just made that up, right? Communistically stupid. Because this is how insane that it is. Now, people are starting to catch on, and this is where the optimism comes into play here, because we've seen over the years people decreasing in enrollment overall. Enrollment in higher education from students, realizing that this is not the way to go. To take out, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a year in order to go to university, and then have a return on investment to be like, I really don't know if I'm going to be able to get the job that I want to, and now I have to have that college degree to go work at McDonald's or something and then advocate for like $25 an hour minimum wage, which is not the intent. And communism leads to the other big word of the day, and that is complacency. Because how many people, unfortunately, are living a minimum wage job, advocating for the $25 to $30 minimum wage, saying that I can't make a living to provide for myself or my family on said minimum wage job, when we're supposed to know that you're not supposed to make a living and live comfortably off a minimum wage job. That's not the purpose of a minimum wage job. Minimum wage meaning I have no experience. I'm just getting my foot in the door. I plan on working my way up, and this is only a temporary stop in my long venture of a career that I look to have a prosperous career moving down the road where I can provide for a family, I can live comfortably and happily, and I can pay off all the debts that I have to where I can be smarter with my finances. That is the goal, is it not? And nowadays, it's like, nah, I'm just kind of happy right here. Just going to live my life, do my thing. And look, if that's your deal, all the power to you. But you got to do it in a smart way, right? You can't be doing that while you're sitting on $50,000, $100,000 in student loan debt. And be like, I can't afford it, and I can't move up. What are we doing? A little bit of momentum here, motivation, right? Got to work and see the goal, the goalpost at the end, the streets paved with gold, and the opportunity for everyone to live the American dream is what we're all about. But we are seeing tuition increase year over year over year because of the lower enrollment. And in fact, these numbers are going to blow your mind. Hat tip to U.S. News on this one. Since 2006 to today, with the looking at universities nationwide on the increase in tuition, there are two different numbers here, one based on inflation numbers, one based on non-inflation numbers, not adjusted for inflation, meaning if the value of the dollar was still at the same level that it was back in 2006. Tuition and fees for national universities, statewide universities across the nation, has jumped 112%. Out-of-state tuition fees, 98% increase since 2006. In-state tuition fees, up 107% on non-adjusted inflation since 2006. Adjusted for inflation numbers, by the way, are up 32% for the tuition and fees, 24% for out-of-state, 29% for in-state tuition. Those numbers are insane. Now, how many people have seen an increase of their wages by 112% or even 32% if you look at the adjusted by inflation since 2006? How many people are able to pay that off on a regular basis? That's why we're saying no. The entire system is a scam. The entire higher education system is a scam. And for the AFT to be just like, well, we need to reform. We do. And you don't need to be involved in the process. Lots more coming up. Stay here.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier. Truth, reason, and common sense. This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Yeah, somebody went up there, they say, you're the third best president in the United States. This was on television, third best. And they said, who are the first two? George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. And I got extremely angry at this man. You can't. It's going to be tough to beat, Mr. Senator. It's going to be, John. It's going to be very tough to beat Washington and Lincoln, but we're going to give it a try, right? Hey, they didn't put out 8 wars, 9 coming. All right, we put out 8 wars. And the 9th is coming, believe it or not.
I love it. President Trump, I love it. He just has fun up there. And it's so funny when he does stuff like that. And he's so worried about his legacy. He's so worried about getting into heaven, which he always jokes about as well. It's to me, it's hysterical. And, of course, the other side losing their minds over the fact that he's renovating the ballroom at the White House. And they're like, oh, he said he was only going to do part of it. And look at all this demolition. Look at what he's doing. He's not going to leave anyway. He's going to stay there forever.
We're all gonna die because of you!
It's funny. It's trolling. It's hilarious. Well done. Hey, want to tell you about my friends over at Americans for Prosperity. As you know, we are going into 250 years of this great nation, and we are looking at a year-long celebration, according to President Donald Trump. And that goes along with not only celebrating the nation, but understanding how we got to this point and all of the great Americans all throughout the years that have stood up to do the right thing at the right time and to meet the challenges of their day, to face those challenges, and those not an elite, not someone distant, but you and I, the average American, that rose to that challenge to make America great at that time. And that's what it's all about. And that's what Americans for Prosperity is doing with their campaign. I want you to go to a website, takeonesmallstep.com. That's takeonesmallstep.com. You can find all the information. They'll be doing the campaign all throughout next year, millions of dollars educating Americans across the nation, learning about the greatness of this nation and the great people that have made it great all throughout the years as well. It is takeonesmallstep.com with our friends over at Americans for Prosperity. All right, let's shift gears a bit here, shall we? Let's go back to the home front. There is a rumor, and I know Donald Trump has hinted at it, we'll see if it actually happens or not, about lowering the classification of marijuana at a federal level from that class 1 narcotic level to down to a lower one, allowing states to have a little bit freer ability to make their decision on marijuana policy. Not just marijuana itself, but hemp. And yes, there is a difference between marijuana and hemp, and that's where we go to the great state of Ohio.
What's trending today?
And for our friends in Ohio, that's where I grew up. We have a lot of friends and listeners and podcast listeners out in that area, but really happy to have on here as there's been some new legislation being worked on in the state legislature after an executive order signed from Governor Mike DeWine in Ohio, banning hemp in the state of Ohio. That's kind of weird.
Say what?
What the heck's going on with that? Really happy to have on the co-founder of Cornbread Hemp. You can find them on their website, Mr. Jim Higdon. Jim, how are you, my friend?
Andy, doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you jumping on here. First, let's talk about what's going on in the state of Ohio. You're in Columbus right now. The legislature's been working on this with some different pieces of legislation, but why in the world would we see the governor of Ohio sign an executive order banning hemp in the state? That's kind of weird to me.
It's kind of weird to me, too. I mean, we have hemp legal in America because President Trump signed the 2018 Farm Bill that legalized all cannabis with a THC level below 0.3%. So yes. A modest amount of THC has been legalized, descheduled from that schedule of controlled substances that's been in place since the Nixon administration. But President Trump in the Farm Bill took hemp out of the schedules, and so there's legal hemp in America as a result. So Cornbread Hemp, we're based in Kentucky, but we do a lot of business in Ohio across state lines. And for folks who are, unfamiliar with how marijuana works in America, is you can only grow marijuana and sell marijuana in the states where it's legal. You can't cross state lines.
Sure. Because
there's no interstate commerce with full strength marijuana because it's still scheduled as a dangerous narcotic, as you said in your intro.
Yeah.
So with hemp, we've got the ability to cross state lines, and so we're moving towards a more free market on this stuff. And it was like I think Governor DeWine was frustrated that the legislature couldn't come up with a solution, and so he kind of threw a fit and rushed out this executive order. It was kind of sloppy, and it didn't have a lot of thought behind it, and a judge, imposed a restraining order against it almost immediately. So it didn't really ever take effect, but it did motivate the legislature to move things along. And you got a Republican-controlled legislature, and there was a good bill in the House with 23 Republican co-sponsors that couldn't get movement because the Speaker of the House didn't like it. But now we've got some kind of compromise moving through the system. And it's like any compromise, there's good parts and bad parts. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and it's going to benefit some people and really hurt other people. And it's kind of arbitrary compromise that's moving the ball forward, and it's going to be good for some folks and really hurt other folks.
Sure. So let's go to prior to the executive order and why Mike DeWine signed that executive order. You said that he was frustrated with kind of the process on the lack of movement. What was the concern? Was it the lack of regulation on it, on how to figure out, if everything's within coordination of the 0.03% THC to be considered hemp? Was it, what was the concern or the issue in Ohio before all of this?
Well, Congress legalized hemp in the 2018 Farm Bill. President Trump signed it.
Right.
And everyone assumed the FDA would then come out with federal regulations to provide some guardrails for this industry. And that has not happened.
So they're just kind of going on their own right now, each state.
Just like it's a Wild West type situation where good actors like Cornbread are trying to do things the right way, hold ourselves to a high standard. But there's other companies who are just after a quick buck, and they don't care.
Right.
And so those companies that don't care are giving the industry a bad reputation. They're selling products that look attractive to children, and it's caused a reasonable amount of concern and alarm among people who don't like these products to begin with. Ohio is, maybe unique in the states. I can think of a couple others that fit this example, but it's a Republican-controlled state, as you know, trifecta, House, Senate, Governor, all Republican, but with voter referenda that has allowed the people of Ohio to legalize first medical marijuana and then adult use marijuana in ways that leadership in Columbus would rather not have existed in the first place either way.
Sure.
So, and then on top of that, you've got hemp running rampant with no guardrails at all. So it's a messy situation from a top-down perspective to begin with, and it does need some rules. It's just the way we've gone about it here seems a little slapdash.
Yeah. You and I were talking a little bit off the air about this, but what's the pushback right now, not just from Ohio, but from all these states with this pushback and this concern about hemp itself? And maybe it's because people don't understand the difference between marijuana with a high THC level and a hemp that's below that 0.03% THC level, and that you can use it for not only consumable products, but you can grow hemp to make it into like hemp ropes and like put it in concrete or something, and you can do so much with the product of hemp itself. Why is there such a negative pushback and a hatred against this product where it's so hard to do anything with it legislatively?
It's just policy change. Big policy change is messy, and when you're dealing with a drug war that's existed for almost 100 years, really hot for the last 50 years, it takes a while to unwind both the mechanisms in the system that have imposed that prohibition, and then just like the cages in a lot of folks' belief systems about the dangers of these products really go back to Vietnam War era politics, where marijuana was bad because hippies were bad because hippies were against the war and the war was good.
Yeah.
Right. So Democrats are already sold on this issue. Like, you poll the Democrats, it's 90% in favor of full strength marijuana, hemp, sure, whatever. Like, there's no need for a distinction among Democrats for it. They're already sold. For Republicans, for a long time, this has been a wedge issue. It really splits the Republicans in half, and now it's tipped over past that halfway point, which is what we're seeing now play out. Like, Republicans are, especially it's not exactly a generational split, but younger Republicans are more likely to be supportive of these issues, and older Republicans are more likely to be concerned.
Sure.
And it really kind of boils down to that.
Yeah, that's a really great point. We're talking with Jim Higdon. He's the co-founder of Cornbread Hemp. Cornbreadhemp.com is the website, and you can find all their products. So the legislation that you're working on right now in Columbus, working with legislators in Ohio, what does that look like? What kind of boundaries, what kind of definitions would that put onto hemp in the state of Ohio?
So from what I can gather from reading this 250-page bill that's changed 3 different times over the last 24 hours, while on my feet talking to legislators, is this bill outlaws hemp edible products with any discernible amount of THC from any retail in convenience stores, gas stations, grocery, all gummy products, all edible products are illegal in Ohio with the exception of beverages. And with a beverage, you'll be able to drink a 5 milligram beverage on premise in bars and restaurants and buy a 10 milligram beverage in gas stations, convenience stores, and grocery. And presumably packaged liquor stores as well. And so as you put these two pieces together, one learns Ohio has made gummies illegal, but beverages legal with 10 milligrams of THC. It's just like it's the identical compound, but in different form factors. One is now legal and one is now not legal.
So weird. It's these weird arbitrary lines that we have on these issues is so funny. I mean, I grew up in Colorado where they were passing their medical marijuana at the first time and their recreational side, and they had these laws at first of like you can have 6 plants in your home to grow, but you can't have 7. You can have certain amount of ounces, but you can't. It's like who's going to regulate these types of laws and go to house by house to make sure that you only have 6 plants instead of 7, and now you can have the drink, you can't have the edible in Ohio. It's very strange. Jim, hang on the line. I want to continue this when we come back. I want to speculate on what it would look like if Donald Trump does make any changes at the federal level, and would this open up the door, and would Republicans or anybody be more loose on how we can actually regulate this at a state level across the nation? Back after this for The Voice of Reason on a Tuesday.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier. America's safe space for common sense. This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Yeah, reason, common sense, rationale is what we do on this program. Trying to cram that 10 pounds of reason into that 5-pound bag. Trying to rebrand the millennial generation, one radio listener at a time. Maybe it is a generational difference. I don't really know. But to me, I just scratch my head when we're like, we're conservative and want limited government. And then we're like, no. You can have hemp candy, or you can have a hemp soda, but you can't have a hemp candy because that makes all the difference in the world. So wild to me. These weird arbitrary lines that we draw in society just blows my mind. We're hanging out with Jim Higdon, co-founder of Cornbread Hemp. Cornbreadhemp.com, as we're looking at some of the legislation in Ohio, with the legislature working on that right now in Columbus, in their capital, trying to figure out how to regulate some of this, which just is wild to me. Jim, let's go to the federal level and see what would this do? How would this change in society if Donald Trump came out and said, yeah, you know what, marijuana no longer going to be that class 1 narcotic. We're going to knock that off the list. States, go at it, have it your thing, which he's teased doing, by the way. And I think under RFK Jr., he might have enough momentum and enthusiasm to do something like that. What would that do to these conversations at a state level, do you think?
Well, it would definitely supercharge the conversations at the state level in Republican-controlled states with some leadership from the White House on this. And like you said, President Trump has teased this a few times. We've been given the in a couple of weeks, a couple of times over a couple of months.
Yeah.
And so we're just waiting for it to elevate on the priority list. It does seem to be. He posted a video on Truth Social talking about hemp-derived CBD products and the endocannabinoid system, which was very positive and a promising signal. But we're dealing with a couple things at the federal level sort of simultaneously. So you mentioned the rescheduling conversation. Rescheduling and descheduling, very similar words, but have profoundly different impacts on where this ultimately lands. The president has talked about rescheduling from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3, which would give state legal marijuana companies a tax break and, some relief, maybe make the banking conversation easier to have. But it's not going to allow interstate commerce and create an actual free market for this product. So to create a free market with interstate commerce, we need to deschedule cannabis entirely and regulate it much more like we regulate alcohol and tobacco.
Yeah.
And so we're very interested in having those discussions. Meanwhile, at the same time, you've got Mitch McConnell and Representative Andy Harris, House Freedom Caucus chairman, trying to outlaw all THC from hemp in this appropriations bill that's going to get sorted out to end the government shutdown in the next week or so. So a lot of moving pieces at the federal level, and no one quite knows where this is going to land.
Yeah, well, there's some optimism there. Like you said, I mean, we have a ways to go to just get rid of all the classes altogether, so that way we can have the interstate commerce. I don't think we're quite there yet, but if Donald Trump's able to go from that Class 1 to a Class 3, that sounds like that would be a major victory in itself right now, just to move that needle a little bit.
100%. It'll destabilize the existing framework that's been around for 50 years. It'll give tax relief to state operators to give them some relief in the state legal system, and it'll really move this conversation into a new phase.
Yeah, it really would. During the conversations that you've heard there in Columbus, not just with the hemp, but with the marijuana issue as well. I know that Ohio, like you said, I mean, they did legalize marijuana for adults, which is just even blows my mind even more why we're having the conversation about hemp in general for the agricultural side. But during all these conversations, have they talked about all of the uses of hemp? Have they talked about the medical purposes of marijuana and hemp and what we can do with all this? I mean, has that been part of the conversation out there?
It certainly is, and you know, you're right to point out that hemp as an industrial product has all, like, you know, people can go on and on about all the great things that hemp can do, and it's kind of crazy to hear about because hemp really can do all of these crazy things, from textiles to building materials, et cetera. And China and Europe are 10 to 15 years ahead of us on all of these things regarding industrial hemp, and we've got to really invest in some infrastructure to get that right. And our friends in the hemp and fiber part of the hemp industry, or the grain and fiber part of the hemp industry, have really been caught in all of this political headache that we're dealing with on the THC side that have nothing to do with it, right? And so they've experienced a lot of frustration that's really, frankly, like, you know, my personal fault. Yeah. And so it's really important for us to get their own regulatory lane for these guys, so that they have ease to market. We can invest in the supply chain, so we can get you know hemp textile looms back from Asia, so we can actually grow hemp for fiber and then make actual clothing with it in America.
Boy, wouldn't that be nice? Yeah,
that just doesn't exist right now.
No, we have a long way to go with that, for sure. Jim, I hate to cut you off. We are out of time, my friend. Good luck with what's going on in Ohio there. Keep us posted. We got to get you back on the show and do it again real soon, my friend.
Thanks for having me, Andy. Really appreciate it.
Hey, you bet. Cornbreadhemp.com. Go and check them out, Jim. We appreciate it. Back at it tomorrow for a Wednesday. Until then, we'll see you on the radio. Bye.